Yeah, but I've got a cool little model, scale model
Wait.
in my office.
Do we have, is this like Zoolander, like the school for kids who can't read good? Yeah, we do have like, how are they gonna get in there?
Have you seen it done?
Oh, yeah, it's great, I wanna bring my little Matchbox cars and like drive around it. It's so cool to play with, 35 grand, I could have bought them.
Find your coffee cup. No. My coffee cup, my mug is not.
You're.
Oh,
you're-
It's my freedom of granddaughter.
Nice visit with your daughter?
I had a great time, yeah, like a lot of fun, a lot of talented people, it was pretty cool.
Okay, so we've had Cabo, we've had West. What's next week?
Oh, I was all partying.
That's all it's in the past. No way, really?
Is she right in DC?
She's in Northwest, yeah. We're, 3 blocks to work.
Yeah, Clovis.
Yeah, we get golf courses, like 3 golf simulators in 6 blocks.
Did you see that thing,
Restaurants are.
Cannon just sent us, it's the. In the past hour, maybe 45 minutes, Cannon sent us the resolution for fallen heroes.
I used to.
Did you get just
It's
like
right there.
I think it was South.
Take a look, just in case there's any wording that we want to adjust.
So I looked at you sent me, I was like, whoa, how are you? I was like, and they're renovating the whole thing.
Yeah, I know you're done.
I could live in.
Actually, when we went into the kid, one of our nephews went to undergraduate school there. We went there, and we went to the bed on the water, so I know.
Jane, I don't know what Jane's.
Yeah, there's a lot of money going in there.
Her mother passed.
It is, and I.
She was a hospice, related care. It was actually designated for hospice and like where she was, south of New Jersey. And Jane brought her home to Jane's house. She passed.
Yeah, well, it's first paper, yeah, for sure. That, yeah, it's fun doing the right thing, because I use a Mac at home. Yeah. So I basically. And then I check it here, and then I put it offline.
And we're right
Here.
The Wi-Fi is DB Public 701,
in the middle.
all lowercase.
And,
Take a picture.
I mean, also got our kids were there.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, that's why I think that's part of it.
Yeah. And we can't move the way we used to, taking up these little 40,000 grandkids or. What's really bad is the kids keep getting bigger. My oldest granddaughter is solidly done.
3 weeks of that, 2 weeks in.
So she was 4 or 5. She-
I'll just trade it in. Don't forget to notice
But she's got 2 younger. You know, I pick up the furniture, there's gonna be there.
I'll do that. How's that? Yeah.
So. In her mind, it's like. I always pick it up.
Yeah. my friend-
I took your- I don't think I'm gonna show all 3 of those contracts. Because I was like looking at it and I was like, because they're so similar. I was gonna understand.
And they're not gonna. You're not gonna show her.
Yeah, and exactly, they were kind of hard to read. I was kind of played around with the resolution. Couldn't get it.
And you'll better come in and attention if you're just talking,
Yeah.
if you're talking with something, they're gonna be kind of listening to you, looking there. And don't forget, I think you agree that the great way to frame it is. We gotta fix this lake. We gotta remove.
Yeah.
And he got.
Especially with the guy. You're right. You're right. It's a good. I know. Had a hospital bed set up on the living room. She will not be here tonight. Good for you, she is dying.
Yes.
You're right. Same space. And no. And I'm just like, oh my, I thought, oh my gosh.
That's fine. Actually, we have a women's leadership meeting on Thursday.
Very good conversation with Margie Downey about free beach access. She said that they're still. Local municipalities more autonomy. And, you know.
Brought up.
Certain references to.
Yes, I know.
Your objective. Trying to. Codify, so you get more consistent. Monitoring.
No, I'm sorry, you didn't bring your. And it's below that. Well, if you lose power, you can look at them together.
In our house, it's surely.
It's up to you.
How are you guys?
Hello, sir.
You're well. See you. I'm trying to match
Like that
that.
tie?
Well, when you see Eric.
Oh. Oh, you did. That's great. Where are we at?
Oh, Eric, that.
Maybe they're-
That were back in the day.
And I also, you know, I'm a math
When
person.
people just wanted to.
It's hard to get back to that.
Not as much, they're much more accomplished. Service users. And the other thing, measurements that are. Well, the right, what we're trying to do is. Consistency.
We all start from recording.
Again, I tried. I'll have other success.
Basically saying. Municipalities have managed. We cover their costs. Without it being.
I ended up uploading everything into a Google Doc, right? So that it's mirroring. And then I put it all offline. And then everyone slide this. All of these are now offline. Yeah,
Call to order in 1 minute.
But he's right here.
She was driving.
You ready for this? What happened? I'd like to call this meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance. What? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I wish to announce that 48-hour notice is required under the Open Public Meetings Act, was emailed to the Asbury Park Press, the Co-Star, and the New Co-Star on December the 19th of 2024. That a copy has been placed on the bulletin board in the borough office and that a copy has been filed with the municipal clerk. As a courtesy to the public, this meeting may be attended via Zoom. If for any reason Zoom fails or is disconnected, the in-person meeting will continue without interruption and action can and will be taken providing that there is an in-person quorum. Mr. Noble excused. Ms. Greenblatt? Here. Mr. Nowicki?
Here.
Mr. Weber?
Here.
Mayor Gubitezi?
Here. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to begin tonight's meeting with a modest change in the agenda. Normally, we would move to item 5 workshops, but instead I'm going to make a motion that we move to presentations and bids. So we have an opportunity to address a presentation early in the meeting, and anyone who might be in attendance would have an opportunity to leave after that. So motion to momentarily skip workshops and move to item 6 on the agenda, presentations and bids.
Second. Mr. Noble excused. Mr. Nowicki? Ms. Greenblatt? Here. Mr. Nowicki?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Gubitezi?
Yes. Okay, and the first item on presentations and bids is a proclamation recognizing former Bradley Beach Elementary School interim superintendent Robert Bob Mahan. And are members of Mr. Mahan's family with us? Would you mind joining us, please, up front? Elsa, come down. And is Bridget Devine here?
Not yet, because you changed the agenda.
Oh, okay.
So you want to call it, because I was thinking about my phone.
No, that's.
Run quickly, right?
Okay, so number one, welcome. I'm Mayor Alvin.
Eileen.
Alvin, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Hi, Terry. Terry, nice to meet you.
Bob Mahan Jr.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. So, if you guys don't mind turning, please the audience. Bridget Devane, it's my fault. I moved this up 5-10 minutes on the agenda. Bridget Devane, who's worked with our board of ed, worked with Bob. Was going to say a few words, and unfortunately, she's not here with us yet. But number one, we're very sorry for your loss. Your father, your husband touched Bradley Beach, our community. He was a major contributor to our elementary school. As I'm sure you know, served as our superintendent for 3 years. And when we heard of his passing, we just want to have a small recognition in his honor. So I was going to have Bridget read this, but I think I'll do the honors. Borough of Bradley Beach, a proclamation in memory of the former Bradley Beach Elementary School interim superintendent Robert Mahan. Whereas on behalf of the Borough of Bradley Beach, the mayor and council wish to record their condolences over the passing of Mr. Robert Mahan,
on March 12th, 2025. Whereas Mr. Mahan previously served as the interim superintendent for the Bradley Beach Elementary School for 3 years, now therefore be it resolved, in recognition of Mr. Mahan's valued service to the Bradley Beach Elementary School faculty and students, the governing body of the Borough of Bradley Beach do hereby express our deep appreciation for his dedication to the progress of this community and extend to his family our sincere sympathy upon his passing. Dated this first day of April, 2025. So thank you all very much for joining us this evening. I will leave this with you, and if anyone would care to make any statement at all, you have the floor.
But I have voice for it.
That's right.
We just appreciate everything you love to hear. And thank you very much for acknowledging.
Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
I don't have my phone, I forgot that.
Okay, while we're still on presentations and bids, item number 2 is just an intended placeholder for a very brief summary of the local 152 contract. We are in the process of getting the final contract signed, just the lawyers going back and forth. No changes, no issues that I'm aware of. We had hoped to have it signed today. It'll probably be signed in the next day or two. But I put together a very brief 3-slide PowerPoint just to summarize where we, at a high level, where we closed the negotiations. And this is already on the borough's website. Folks can reference it afterwards if they like, but just a quick walkthrough. Michelle, if you could go to the next page. Okay, great. I can barely see it from here. But what I've set up on the left-hand side of this slide is what the steps in the world of unions. We negotiate salaries based upon steps. A step typically is associated with a year of service or a year of experience. A brand new person coming in might start at step 1. An experienced person, depending on how much experience, may start at step 3 or 5 or 8 or so forth. And so just for the record, the steps on the left side are broken into 5 categories. The first one with a little red circle on it, I don't know if people can see it, that first column is DPW. There are a couple of other columns for other categories, but I just thought we'd maybe focus on DPW to give folks an idea of how the process worked. In the world of DPW, there's actually 20 steps. I cut them off here, but there is an appendix with the full schedule in the back of this document. So at step 1, the goal going into the negotiation was to make sure that that we had a fair and affordable contract established with our union. That was really to say what is market value for the services rendered. And I thought this is the way we approach the establishing of what is fair market value. And it was by looking at the very first step. That's the step where you're coming in off the street. You very likely be compared to what a minimum wage type job might be. And the blue shaded area, light blue shaded, is the old contract periods of time, 2020, 2021, and 2022. The yellowish gold area is 23 through 27. That represents the new contract period. I actually tracked what minimum wage percentage increases were during that period of time in the middle. And then on the far right side, the 2 numbers circled there, the one in the middle of the old contract and the one in the middle of the new contract, represent what step 1 was, $32,000 even. And step 2 is a little above 41,000. I think it's 41,400. And that is literally multiplying that 32,000, which was the middle step, I'm sorry, it was the step identified in the old contract for step one. But it was, it should have represented the midpoint of that contract. So when you compare what the midpoint of the old contract was to the midpoint of the new contract, there was an increase of around 28%. Now, that sounds like a lot. If if you say, wow, salary in a given step in a given band went up 28%, that's a big number. Michelle, if you go to the next page. One more, yeah. So what I did is circle for everyone to see. Now, the old steps are on the left and the new steps are in blue on the right. And that first set of red circles at the top of the page, that those circle the exact same numbers, the 32,000 moving to 41,000 even. So it's not quite, I think the old number was a little over 29%. This actual step is a 28% increase. In the middle range, you can see there was, the step one was a 9,000 increase. Step 8 or so, I'm having trouble reading my own slide, was around a 7,000 something increase. And step 13 is still a lesser increase. What's important to note is, if you look at how those increases track over a 4-year period, the midpoint of the old contract to the midpoint of the new contract, you can see that the increase was, Sean, can you read that? Is it, it's like 5% or so? Hold on, I have.
6.4, 3.4, 2.1.
Thank you, stop showing off. Sorry. I do have it in paper now in front of me. So the lowest level, step one, remember that kept pace with minimum wage in the state of New Jersey. Over 4 years, that reflects for the entry level person, an average 6% increase, 6.4%. But at step 8, which is, roughly in the middle of a 20-step plan, the average increase over that period was 3.4%. And at the higher pay end of that spectrum, a prior contract, 63,750 at step 14, it increased 5,500, which was an 8.6% overall increase, but on an annual basis, that equated to 2.1%. So depending on where you were in the step guide, you had a different average rate of increase, but in aggregate, the overall increase was something around 4%, close to 4%. So just want to give everyone a sense for the mechanics of how this worked. And Michelle, if you go to the next page. These are some high-level references of some of the key points negotiated in the contract. Once we have the contract signed, we'll have some additional data that we can share with the public, and we'll be sure to post that on the website as well. But a quick summary of items where the union, felt the significant terms, were acceptable to them. Wage increases required a fairly significant retro payment of wages. Keep in mind, the union employees were not paid a wage increase for 2 years. So those percentage increases I showed you, when you lump them together over 2 years, we, the borough, did have some significant retro payments to be made. We added a holiday. There were already 13 holidays, and Juneteenth is a federal holiday. We added a 14th holiday to the union contract. I'll talk about what the union provided the borough in return. We agreed to include part-timers with a reference, because previously part-timers legally must be covered by the union. That is state law. But our prior administration had said the part-timers were not covered, and the union accepted that at the time. We had no choice but to make sure that we recognized part-timers were in fact subject to the union terms. And we agreed that they would receive a minimum of a 2% increase annually. And then sick leave, this was a very significant issue for the union, and I told the union right up front, this was not a point of negotiation. There had been a cap placed on their sick leave of 29 days, and the union can accrue their sick leave in a bank. And they can use that bank for when they're ill, when they missed a day or 2 or 5. Or at retirement, they can cash out that bank up to a limit of $15,000. But that 29-day cap ended up capping many people that they weren't even gonna be able to reach the 15,000 amount payout. And what was really concerning to me was that bank, the way it used to exist, could be 100 days, could be more. They couldn't get cashed out a lot, 15,000 cap, but that bank served as insurance for them. If they had a catastrophic illness or injury, they would be paid disability leave out of that bank. So we, with the advisor, with my advisor's agreement, we told the union, this should not have been capped to begin with. It's just not appropriate. We didn't feel appropriate to treat our borough employees this way. So we did return the sick leave days that have been cashed out. Now, the good news is that provides insurance. The good news for our employees, it provides insurance for them. The good news for the borough is we are now able to avoid a use it or lose it mindset that existed within the union. If you think about it, if you're given a 29-day period to accumulate sick leave and you get to 28 days, 29 days, you earn a day and a quarter, whatever the exact percentage is, a little over a day a month. Well, you're at 29 days and you're earning a day next month. You can't save it. You're capped at 29. You're gonna lose it unless you use it. So the prior administration shared with the council, they were seeing that the union individuals were starting to utilize a day here and a day there a month, but with pretty good regularity, to the point that it was referenced as it could be abuse. And I shared with them at the time, and I felt going into the negotiations very strong about this. It's not abuse, it's human nature. People earn that day, they'd like to use that day. So by removing the cap, I'd like to think we, the Borough of Bradley Beach, have restored an equitable balance with our employees. We've now allowed them to accumulate that, put that in a bank. They can draw on it if they need it, but if they don't need it, they leave it in the bank for that. Well, hopefully, if they never need it, but it'll be there for that rainy day where they might have an illness, extensive illness. So my own estimates, I thought that actually would save the borough productivity costs, because folks being out a day a month, a day every other month, that's perhaps 12 days a year for a given individual at a cost of work per day. You know, there was a potential of significant productivity loss that we will now be able to avoid. Finally, just a couple of thoughts in terms of items that benefited the borough. The way overtime was being calculated, it was rounding up as high as 30 minutes. You worked 1 minute into a 30-minute period, and overtime would be calculated as rounding up 30. And Mr. Doherty pointed out that that probably didn't make total sense for the borough. And the union said they agreed and they were willing to change that particular provision. There were challenges with getting a sufficient advance notice on vacation, so the union did agree to provide 1 week for 1 week vacation to provide 30 days notice to their supervisor. They had 6 personal days, and this is very significant give back by the union. Given that we were adding Juneteenth and we were doing some of these other things with sick leave days, the union agreed to move from 6 personal days to 3. And then finally, we established a bit longer of a probationary period for new hires, where we would look at performance over 6 months plus 45 days, so effectively 7.5 months. So those were the key criteria, just to give everyone a sense. I don't think there's any doubt that the most significant issue was the retro pay. And we're working through that with our budgeting for this year. The borough is in a really good position to make sure that we're able to continue to pay our employees a fair wage, and make sure that we manage our budgets effectively for our residents. So want to make sure I took everyone through that. Council, any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, when we open it up for public comments and questions, you feel free to address any questions you may have about this as well. Okay, now I'd like to go back to item. I'm sorry, I'd like to move forward to item 7, which is the approval of the minutes. I'd like to make a motion that we approve March 18th, 2025 council business meeting minutes.
Second.
Mr. Noble, excuse, Ms. Greenblatt,
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Mayor Gubatose.
Yes. Now I would like to go back to item number 5, workshops, and invite Mr. Bennett Matlack to make a presentation for us.
Thank you. I'm just gonna pull up my slides here real quick. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Here today to talk about 2 projects that we're working on. The Recreation Center improvements and the Sylvan Lake project. The first one I'm going to talk about is the Recreation Center. Here is a color rendering of the improvement plan for the rec center. Just to, and I know I've gone over this a few times before with public meetings for grant applications and other updates, but I'll just run through quickly what the improvements are. Resurfacing the basketball courts and the tennis courts. That is removing the surface coat of asphalt and repaving them, and then color coding them and restriping. Additionally, the playground is going to be expanded, drainage improvements installed. We met with Courtney Pappas, your rec director. She gave us some feedback on what she would like to see at the playground. She selected a few amenities, which I'll show it in a minute. And we've designed this so that all the equipment fits, has the proper safety fall zones. And it's surrounded by a poured rubber safety surface. And then in order to be able to get all of the equipment that Ms. Pappas wants, so getting pricing through our state contract. But I've met with your public works director, Biagio Cafone, and he came up with a good idea of having the public works employees install new pavers around the walkway instead of doing that through the contract. We're able to save a lot of money by doing that. Probably in the range of $50,000 to $75,000 to utilize public works guys to do that work instead of prevailing wage through the contract. So that all good things there. The construction of this project is going to be in September. The intent is to not interfere with the summer schedule for the programming that they have at the rec center. So we discussed that with Ms. Pappas, and that was her big thing was that from the end of June until the end of August, they have the summer program. So we don't want to interfere with that. We'll hold off construction until basically when school starts back up again. And I'll show you real quick the playground amenities that we selected.
People on Zoom can't see the slides.
Is there anything we can do about that going forward? I realized
Let me
tonight
see
we
if I can
can't.
share the screen here. Hopefully that works.
Can they see it on Zoom now, Nancy?
They're texting me, so to say we're trying. Oh, I got it, thank you.
Sorry about that to everybody on Zoom. So these are some of the amenities that we're looking at. And I want to point out that originally when we had conceptualized this design, we talked about 2 different playground structures, one for age groups 5 to 12, one for 2 to 5. In order to be able to fit everything, and one of the important things for the rec director was getting some swings in there. And she wanted to get a larger 5 to 12 playground piece of equipment. We are not putting in the 2 to 5. However, the 5 to 12 has 3 components you can kind of see there at the top left corner. And some of those are for smaller children. And then you have some of those individual pieces, the ladybug, the yellow flower, that, you know, smaller children are able to climb on and play with, as well as the swings that we're proposing. So it's still inclusive of all different age groups. It's just a little bit different than, you know, what we originally thought. And any questions?
I have a question. Ben, if you go back to the plan.
Sure.
Just, if you could just share with us, in the playground area, are you also providing benches? And where would those be located? You mentioned expanding that playground, so then we were thinking more, I'm thinking more capacity. Do we have enough benches along there to be able to do, or should we be looking at that as well?
Yeah, so the playground area is this L shape right here. We're still leaving a green space, grassed area to have picnic tables or benches in here. And we also like to usually put benches right in the playground area itself. So that, you know, you're watching your kids on the equipment, you have a place to sit, you know, actually in the playground area.
Thank you.
And Ben, for the pickleball enthusiasts, whether they be here in the room tonight or on Zoom or watching this later, I know you are working with Courtney Pappas, the rec director, to do the resurfacing that will include pickleball.
Correct.
Outlines.
That's correct. If you see at the bottom of the screen there, that is your tennis court, and which is striped kind of up and down. The horizontal striping courts are the 4 pickleball courts that overlay onto the tennis court.
Do others have questions about?
The only question I was gonna ask is, since I'm a liaison for rec, I understood the discussion about whether this was gonna be done before camp or after camp, and I know there's a deadline in using the grant. What is the deadline, the end of September or something?
There's a deadline to use one of the grants, which is the end of September. We have a workaround for that because by purchasing the playground equipment through state contract, you can pay for that now and submit for your reimbursement through the grant program before the end of September, before we even start construction. So we're able to do that, to utilize the grant funding and still work within the rec department's schedule.
So even if you go beyond the end of September, you're okay?
Yes, because we're going to utilize the funds just to purchase the equipment, because it's more than this is one of the grants we're talking about, the local recreation improvement grant for $74,000. The equipment itself, we're getting quotes for, but it's probably in the range of $200,000. So we can get reimbursed a portion of that right away, but the construction expenses.
Ben,
Yes.
on the tennis/pickleball courts, with the overlay like that, does that get confusing, say, for tennis players? Like, I don't really play either, and I would not know if the ball was out or not, you know what I mean? Like, are we gonna get complaints about that?
It's a very common thing to have pickleball overlaid on tennis. Currently, the courts right now are set up that way.
Okay,
They, you know, we can certainly strike for only one or the other, but we're showing it as both to accommodate all the sports. But you know, that's your preference, if you want to only strike for tennis or only strike for pickleball.
Well, I'm just, if you say it's standard and it's doable and like the tennis players know like where the court is, 'cause
Yeah.
I couldn't.
A lot of
Is it-
times, the striking are different colors, maybe
Okay.
they might have white striking for tennis and yellow striking for pickleball.
That would make a lot of sense, I guess, I'm gonna start with color coding. Okay, thanks.
Ben, we do know one organization that's not really fond of the pickleball.
I do. The US Tennis Association, we went for a grant. They offered a grant program up to, I think it was $20,000 for resurfacing and refencing tennis courts. But they had a strict policy that you cannot strike pickleball on them. So we didn't qualify for that, unfortunately.
But thank you for asking. We appreciate that.
We had a meeting with them on site. They thought it was a good idea, but that was a little caveat that didn't work in our favor.
After your second presentation, we're gonna open up to public comments, so the public will be able to ask questions of Ben of both of these presentations. Shall you move on to Sylvan Lake, Ben?
Yes, thank you.
One other comment, Bridget DeBane, do you realize that the Mahan family has come and gone? I'm sorry, we moved them up ahead of you, but just wanted to make sure you knew.
And can I ask you one more question?
Yes,
The recreation sign that's problematic at Main Street, is that being replaced under this grant?
that was a kind of a last minute request from Courtney, which we are going, I told her we could get some information about a sign. I think she had one picked out already, and we'll try and incorporate that into this project as funding allows.
What's problematic with that, I'm not familiar with.
It's, you can't really pull it and it doesn't stay open in order for her to be able to update the information.
Yeah, it's a pretty old sign, needs to be updated. I know she had picked out something that was, I think it was an LED sign.
Oh, well, so, but that's why I asked that, like. An electronic sign, like, wouldn't that, I'm concerned that she's picked that out already and we haven't even discussed that.
I was aware of it.
Okay, so because now we're gonna have 3 LED signs on one main street and that's like a lot of LED signs.
Ben, let's caucus that, you know,
Sure.
over the week ahead, and we'll talk to Courtney. But we are, as a general rule, we try to avoid LED signs. We
Okay.
have one at the elementary school. We have one for the fire department. I think we're trying to keep it at 2 if we can.
Only have 3, counting the school, we have 3 in town already, so.
Yeah, okay. All right, Sylvan Lake,
Yes. So you've probably seen this concept plan before. This was a plan dated September 1st of 2023, prepared by Matrix Engineering for the Sylvan Lake Committee's group that's working on the Sylvan Lake dredging project. I'm showing you this plan just to kind of reiterate that there is an overall plan for Sylvan Lake. The project that I'm working on is kind of one component of Sylvan Lake, but ultimately, the main goal is to consider the health of Sylvan Lake, the safety of the lake, and to make sure that, you know, any improvements we do keeps those things in mind. The main reason we're doing the project that we're doing, addressing the failing bulkhead, is because it's failing. It's a safety issue. The borough had to install the snow fence from Madison to Evergreen, just to make sure that people didn't get too close to the bulkhead because it was unstable. There was erosion happening, there is erosion happening. So it's something that needs to be addressed. I had a meeting with the Sylvan Lake Commission. I presented 3 different concept plans to them. I'll just run through briefly what they entail, and then I'll show you the one that they selected. The first one was to continue the retaining wall bulkhead improvement that happened at the Sylvan Lake Park on the east side. It was essentially cutting off the existing wood bulkhead at the water line, having a few feet of grasses and living shoreline, and then the modular block retaining wall behind that. That was concept number one, and no impacts to Bradley Boulevard, and it's essentially just replacing the bulkhead, but giving a small area for some living shoreline. The second concept we had talked about was doing no bulkhead at all. Narrowing Bradley Boulevard by 10 feet. Currently, it's a 50-foot wide roadway, and we would make it 40-foot wide and just have a more of a natural shoreline, similar to what is over on the Avon side. One of the downsides of that treatment is you're making the road much more narrow. It does not allow for vehicular and bicycle traffic at the same time. It also actually kind of cuts off access to the lake, because with doing that, you have to sort of create a berm on the Bradley side, and that will reduce visibility from Bradley Boulevard. Your grasses are going to grow tall on the berm, and it'll actually creep out into the water surface area. So you're reducing the surface area of the lake by doing that. Coupled with the ultimate plan of dredging Sylvan Lake, some of that material is going to be kind of piled on top of that shoreline area. So that would further reduce the surface area of Sylvan Lake. The third concept, the other thing about the second idea was that you couldn't do it the whole way along Sylvan Lake because the wall gets too tall towards the west side. The third concept, which is the one I'm showing you here, was ultimately the one that the Sylvan Lake Commission agreed to, like the best. It's sort of a hybrid between the two. It's still reducing the pavement width of Bradley Boulevard by 6 feet, make it 44-foot wide. Which still allows room for vehicular and bicycle traffic to share the road, just like they do on Main Street. And it allows room for parking, which you currently have there. It also has about a 12-foot wide area of upland grassed area, which is park-like, similar to what you have now. And then we have the retaining wall, modular block wall, and a 13-foot space of area for living shoreline plantings. The good thing about this is that you have a larger area at the base of your new wall for ultimately the dredge material to go somewhere. So dredge material can be put up against the wall or, in front of it, and it reduces the impact of the surface area of the lake. By giving basically a shelf to place some dredge material, you're lessening the reduction of water surface area. Because once you make it deeper, the soil has to go somewhere. So you're lessening the below there.
Ben, in that last design. So the new retaining wall would be much closer to Bradley Boulevard than where it is right now, correct?
It would actually be a little bit, well, it would be a little bit closer, but because you're moving the curb line as well, you're reducing it 6 feet. And then you're pushing the wall back.
Okay, so
So-
the road wasn't moving, it would be closer, okay.
Yes,
But what's happening with all that dirt? That seems like a lot, it's like 13 feet of dirt, that's,
yeah,
what are you doing with that?
there's a lot of soil that would have to be removed.
And
It depends. We would have to do some soil testing just to see what we're dealing with. And then it would either be brought off site or we could potentially use it in some sort of reuse.
does that make it crazy expensive to move that much
It's,
earth?
depending on if it is contaminated or regulated, needing to be treated a certain way, it depends. But
Okay.
that's one of the things that we have to do is figure out. You know, test the soil, see if there is any special treatment that it has to be given. Otherwise, it's essentially just like excavating in your backyard.
No, I know, but I thought like moving that much would cost a lot of money. It's not contaminated, but I don't know.
It does cost a lot of money,
Okay.
but that's captured within the budget that we have to do this project.
And Ben, you're not talking about it tonight, but fairly close by, Bradley will be entertaining the extension of the promenade. And there may be opportunities to move that dirt a very short area to support that project.
That is one of the things that we're looking into, yes, as part of kind of the collaboration of projects. We're looking to see if some materials can be taken from this area and brought over to another area in town for reuse that would benefit both projects in that way.
So I could say a lot about this project. I've been pretty involved with the process with the commission as the liaison to the commission and also working with Ben. And I think the thing that's really important here is to understand how critical what we do around the lake affects the health of the lake. And so that includes the how the water gets to the lake, but also how it's treated before it gets to the lake. Today, what happens is the water comes right off the road through a pipe and just spills right into the lake. There's no treatment, there's no water quality. And so you get garbage, you get silts, you get oils off the pavement, and there's no pre-treatment to it reaching the lake. What Avon did on their side was the concept of that living shoreline was they pulled back those outfalls, the street sewers, in order to let the water run through grassed and riprap soils in order to treat the water before it goes into the lake. Basically, bioremediation is what it is referred to. And every little bit helps. It collects the silt so it doesn't go into the lake. And right now that lake, just to give a little background, we have anywhere up to depths of up to 7 feet of silt in that lake. And so when you notice that there's, it appears as the lake is pretty shallow, that also is not good for that lake because you're reducing oxygen in the lake and the fish will not live. The birds will not come there because there won't be food and it will turn into a swamp. And so everything that we do needs to consider the quantity and the quality of the water to the lake. By reducing that little bit of pavement, that 6 feet also reduces the amount of water that goes into the lake because it's less direct runoff. It helps improve the quality of that water. So there's a lot of different measures that are being looked at by the engineering team on this project as well as the other projects around the lake. How can we improve the water quality and quantity that goes into the lake and be able to manage a more healthy lake so that we can have that resource for the future? So that's really critical. And one of the things that the commission wants to do is invite the general public, have a public information center as these projects are starting to develop, to be able to come, say, to the Biasi Center, have this information out there, be able to see it firsthand, be able to come, have discussions, ask questions, understand what it is that is being done in different projects. But there's approximately 5 different projects that are going on at the lake over the next year to 2 years. And some of them are going to start construction as early as this fall, when the outfall pipe out to the ocean gets replaced by DEP. And so there's a lot of things going on with this lake. And so this is one component, but everything has to fit into almost a puzzle to best treat the health and safety of the lake. And so this is just the first step of putting this out there of the concepts that are being looked at. And so we want to use the commission. The next commission meeting is in 2 weeks from Wednesday. So you're able to come to that and it's open to the public to be able to listen and be educated. But again, in addition to that, I've talked to the mayor about having a public info center set up timely to be able to get that input and be able to show the concepts and things as they're being developed to make sure the public is involved in that ultimate solution.
I would say just to make sure the public understands how dire the situation is with our lake, Sylvan Lake. As Councilman Nowicki mentioned, we've got 6 to 7 feet of siltation that's been built up over many years, leaving about 1.5 feet of water. For example, a county engineer was visiting the other day, studying runoff from Neptune, which is really critical to us too, because we want to make sure the runoff from Neptune is appropriately managed, going through filtration systems that we will build. But he asked how deep was the lake, and someone in our group pointed that there was a swan out in the middle of the lake standing up. And you could basically see its legs, couldn't quite see its feet. They were underwater, but there were probably 6 inches of water that the swan was standing in relatively speaking, the middle of the lake. So it looks really pretty and we still have wildlife, but this lake is in dire need of resuscitation. What we want to do is dredge that 5, 6, 7 feet of siltation. But right now, we don't really have a lot of places to put that. You dredge it, but where does it go? That's why Councilman Nowicki, working with the commission, thought through this process of basically taking 6 feet more up from the dirt when we build a new bulkhead, build it 6 feet closer to the road, giving us more capacity within the lake. So if we cannot remove that siltation from the lake altogether, we can at least move it from the center, creating more depth for the water, and move it into the space on this, at least some of it, into the space on the side that we'd be creating. So you see, there's a lot of moving parts here. But we have a really dynamic team made up of Avon people, Bradley Beach people on the commission, a couple of engineers representing Avon, and a couple of engineers representing Bradley, and our own engineer, Paul Nowicki, working really diligently with those other engineers. And of course, our municipal engineer, Mr. Malak. So we've got a true all-star cast. And I've been affiliated with this project for 5 years, and it's been fascinating to watch all the engineers, kind of work through this and figure out the right solutions, secure grant funding and so forth. But I just think the momentum just keeps building. And Paul, with you joining the team, I think we've just been, accelerating our progress. So now with the county involved, I have very high expectations that we're going to make a lot of progress in the couple of years ahead.
I just want to
Please.
ask, what is the order of the process? So in the fall, the first thing that's happening is the sinkhole area, the outflow is being repaired. Right, and how long a process is that going to be? That's going to start shortly after.
There's a window of 5 months that has to be done in between the months of November and March. And that's because of the particular type of ecology that exists based on environmental constraints. So they have a window in which they can do that work and disturb the dunes in that area. So that's a critical time schedule for that. So DEP is running that project. They're managing it. They've already have a contractor on board. And so that's going to advance. So that should start sometime late October, the latest will be, I think, November 15th or so. But that, again, those dates are still in flux, but that's that window. They're trying to go through the federal fish, game and wildlife to see if they can get some ability to move that schedule into October. And they have to do some field sightings and whatnot to see if they can actually advance that in advance in order to do that. That project, it's really I could talk all day about this project, but it's really interesting. It was built in the 1960s. It's a wood box that basically carries the water from Sylvan Lake out to the ocean and now falls there. And that box collapsed. So they're going to be putting back in a new, ductile iron pipe on piles. So they actually have to dig that out, remove it, and then put the pipe in. And the other thing that's really a critical project that we're going to be working on here as well that has to get advanced quickly is the actual gate that controls the water leaving the lake And that's a critical project because we've only done last year, a measure to, temporarily fix that gate. Was put in place, but that gate is not in any way, does not have any longevity and is actually a big risk to potential flooding or failure. So that's something that has to advance here rapidly as well. So that's a priority. When it comes to the project that Ben's working on right now, we have the funding from DOT to do that project, which is replacement of the wall from Evergreen to Madison. And so that's a critical piece. And through permitting and everything else, that's probably 6 to 9 months until we get to construction.
Yeah, it's probably an early 2026 construction project.
This is the bulkhead area,
bulkhead.
what you were showing.
Yes.
Correct.
And does that also, when does that gate get replaced?
So we're looking for the opportunity to possibly do them together. So that we'd have one contractor do that, but we also have the option to be able to separate those. What's going to drive that is the permitting process is really going to be critical of what permits are required for what, and can we do one permit, get it all done and expedite it? So that's kind of like what we're looking to advance at this time.
And similar to what he was talking about with the outfall project, where there's some environmental factors that limit your time frame of when you can work. On the beach at the dune area, there could be something similar in the lake area. We just don't know what that is. That it would depend on, the DEP's research of what, threatened endangered species might be around there or anything like that. So until we go through the permitting process, we won't know if there's any type of moratorium that we have to adhere to. So that there's not a definite schedule yet, but like you said, these are the critical projects. The gate structure is certainly, I think, probably the most important one. And then the bulkhead is probably number 2. And with the bulkhead, we have grant funding that has a clock associated with it. We have to use that money by, I don't have it written down in front of me, but it's sometime in 2026. I want to say it's April 26th.
For which?
The
Bulkhead?
bulkhead project.
To
award a contract. April, I think it was April 26th.
So do we conceivably see some of this taking place? Well, first of all, I guess one question is, for the outflow pipe repair of that, which is going to be happening in the fall, winter. Is the street getting opened up, Ocean Avenue?
No.
It's just on
No,
the
it's
east
gate.
side?
The gate is contained at the opening, and there's a chamber that is like in the parking lot area. There's a parking lot there next to the park,
Mm.
and then there's a separate pipe that goes underneath Ocean Avenue to another chamber. So that had been replaced at some point in time. I don't know exactly when, but that piece is not being touched between those 2 chambers. So, but the gate would be critical. And that's the one we're trying to advance.
But the gate's gonna come after the outflow. That's right.
Yes, the outfall is going to happen first. Because that's already designed and ready to go to construction. They're just waiting for the moratorium. We're trying to catch up to that, get the design on the gate and the wall done as quickly and expeditiously as possible so that we can then advance that. And coordinate that between the 2 projects, because that's the other thing we want to make sure is that we're not putting contractors when they're working over top of each other. And so that they have, a place to store the materials, et cetera.
Right, and then you're using potentially using some of the dredged material in capsules for the bulkhead, recreating a bulkhead. So does that need to be
hasn't been fully determined yet, but that's the idea, is to somehow reutilize that dredged material instead of trying to take it offsite and having to ship it somewhere and dispose of it somewhere, which is sometimes hard to even find a place that will accept it. Reusing it in creative ways, essentially.
So that really has to come right on the heels of the bulkhead project.
They have to be coordinated, yes,
Yeah.
or we have to provide the space to be able to put that in the system to be able to do that, whatever system we use on that wall that we have the ability to put material in front of the wall perhaps.
I would say in the interest of time, because Shauna, you probably have a dozen more questions and I don't blame you. But there's so much we still don't know that I wanted to make sure we had this opportunity to give everybody some exposure to this, but we're gonna have to circle back 2 or 3 more or 5 or 10 more times. Especially when we start factoring in the county. So great questions, but in the interest of time, maybe we move forward and then we revisit at subsequent meetings.
Sure.
But the bottom line to this, there's a lot of moving parts. We've got a lot of really talented people managing it, but it's deceptive because the lake looks beautiful, but it's in a lot of trouble. So we got a lot of really good people working to fix it. Ben, any other comments before we open it up to the public?
Nothing else.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we open it up to public comments pertaining to the agenda items only.
Second.
You don't have to
I
make.
did.
Yeah, we don't have to do that. It's on the agenda.
Well, then, not even listening to no way. I'm opening it up to the public for comments. Anyone interested in commenting? Linda?
So I have to go up there, you know, right?
Yeah, you have to. And tell us where you live.
I live in Brandy Beach.
Well, thank you for the second anyway. I appreciate it. Anytime.
Linda Duffy, 312 Brindley Avenue. I just have a small question. With the recreation area, are you gonna provide benches by the tennis pickleball courts and a table maybe for people to sit that are waiting to play besides the children's area?
Yeah, we typically would provide, you call them players benches, you know, they could be movable benches in the actual tennis area.
They had removed them because they felt they were unsafe. So I'm just saying, for the outside, they had a little butt thing, I don't know what that was for, a ticket booth of some sort, is that gonna be removed? You know what I'm talking about then, right? There's a ticket booth,
By the parking lot?
yeah,
That it wasn't planned to be removed, but we did talk about some type of shade structure on the outside near that area.
oh, that was great.
With potentially some benches or a picnic table or something like that.
And I just have a small question about the lake. I'm imagining dredge is like silt, it's like movable, like, how do you make it hard to stay somewhere
So you mix it,
with like sand?
yeah, with our gravel, yeah, there's ways to make it structural. So there's ways to do that. Or you put it inside of a mechanical device like the tubes. And then you put it inside the tubes and you create it, basically, it fills the voids of those tubes, you know,
And
basically.
it dries out,
And it dries, yeah,
all right, thank you.
welcome.
Nancy? Ben, can we, I'm sorry, Nancy, can we get back to Zoom so we
Yeah.
can see? Sorry.
Nancy Meadow, Ocean Park Condominium Association, regarding the rec center. I've been waiting years. When I will admit that I've not been there in 1 year, so I don't know if this has been remedied. From the pathway from the parking lot down to the current tennis court. There's, I don't know, 2, 3, maybe 4 steps to go from the walkway to the courts. As of a year ago, there was no railing. So does this plan include a railing, or have we put one in the past year that I've not been there? Just saying it's steps, you should have a railing.
I'm sorry, is that at the rec center, that was,
In time,
we can certainly put a railing in on those steps.
why would we even overlook that?
Either that or regrade the pathway to get rid of the steps, if that could be done.
Either or, something more safe would be my vote. Also, I might not have paid full attention. Did the plan for the rec center improvements include anything regarding drainage or regrading of the field?
Ben,
That is phase 2. That's not part of this project. The field isn't gonna be touched, but there are drainage improvements to the playground area, which has issues.
Okay, so in my little warped head. They're not, that field's a mess. It's not regulation. It's soggy. It's this, that, and the other thing. So if you're concerned about lines and striping for pickleball, I would just rotate everything, put the playground where the field is, put the basketball court where the playground is, and then on the other, where the basketball court is, make the pickleball court. Because the field is pretty much not usable except for on field day. And the other thing I wonder about is, thank you for bringing up the sign. It has been my mission for now almost 2 years in June. I don't want to speak for anyone, but I'm well aware that there's somebody willing to hold up the sign while the information is changed if the window is too heavy, as well as we have employees who have volunteered to build a new one, which I'm sure would be more attractive than another electronic one. So, these little things are just as important as the whole big thing, because some of us do believe that the devil is in the details, and Bradley Beach Way, let's do it 2 or 3 times in order to get it right. It'd be nice to not have that happen with this current new administration. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Desmond.
Hi, Rich Destin, 600 Third Avenue. Over the years, I've heard discussion about the greenhouse. Was there any discussion for what project you're talking about tonight? As to what fate that would become of that?
For this particular project, the greenhouse is not being addressed. However, the Environmental Commission has been asked to bring recommendations as to whether or not it's worth preserving a greenhouse in some shape or form. Probably not this particular building because it's pretty dilapidated. But should we build a new greenhouse or should we use that space for some other activity?
It's a good idea. Okay, the other item I had, there was discussion over the many years that I've been here, 13. About a dog park. Has there been any discussion about the very little land that we have here available for one? And there might be some land as part of the project we're talking about now. And there might be some land available in the other project that's going to be coming up, which is the extension of the promenade. Has there been any talk about that?
There has been talk in terms of people bouncing ideas off of other people, but we're going to formalize a committee to evaluate areas where we could have a dog park. There's been talk on both sides, people who are advocating the use of that space for dogs and people who are adamantly opposed to the use of that space for dogs. So I don't want to mislead you and suggest we're close to a solution, but to answer your question, yes, there's conversation and we're going to be more formalized in putting together a committee to evaluate it.
Just a little note on dog parks. I grew up with dogs. Our street that we were on, a dead end street, nobody owned a leash. And it's interesting, every dog in the street knew which is their property, would defend it. And everybody got along, and I love dogs. I've been bitten 3 times, twice by Argo, who's kept on a leash all the time. I felt bad for him, never go over to him to comfort him. And so I big time was into dogs. My logical mind has changed me in wanting to own a dog or not. Especially the thought of putting a dog on a leash is not a good thing for me. And then living in New York City didn't make any sense. And I have not had a dog. It doesn't mean that I can't appreciate the value the dog brings in so many different ways. Now, I can think of where I was going with that. The town lived in Morris County for 20 years, Randolph. I was involved, as I am here, in a much smaller way in this town. The utility wanted to use some land that belonged to the town. And they worked a deal where they were going to buy this land from the town. And the big question came up, oh, a chunk of money, what are we gonna do with it? And somebody thought of the idea of a dog park. And thinking about all the other priorities that they had, I thought that that was not a good idea and spoke about that often. Well, they did use the money for the dog park. And I am thrilled at the results of that. What it did for the town is a calming thing about the pro and anti and one big thing. A place for people to get together. The town had a big problem. Nobody got together in town. They would bring the kids to school, they would go to work and come home, and that was it. It brought people together. And it was very healthy for the dog, so it was a very, very positive thing to have, so I would certainly support it.
Thank you.
That's it.
Mr. Cohen.
Thomas J. Cohen, 612 Third Avenue. Mr. Malik, on these two projects, does the grant require a public hearing on both of them?
No, it did not.
It does not, okay. Great, then, the pavers you referenced Public Works working on, are they resetting the existing pavers, or is that gonna be all new pavers?
They're looking at buying all new papers.
All new pavers, okay, great. And then on the pickleball courts, it does look a little bit messy, but based on your overlay, would it be possible to just do away with the tennis court and reconfigure the pickleball courts to get one additional court, so you'd have 5 instead of 6?
We can configure the courts however they fit onto, that area. It would just be a preference of the council whether they want to eliminate tennis entirely.
Okay, because, and also, painting wise, I like the kitchen to be a different color, so,
I understand.
we can call people on, that's. The other thing, on the lake project, of the 3 that you mentioned, what is the price differential? Do you have a price differential on any of these?
The different concepts?
Yes, 1, 2, 3.
I don't have exact dollar figures. The first and the third are essentially are close to the same cost. The second one was less costly because we wouldn't have to put in the block wall, but it would be more grading work. But roughly they're in the same range.
But the new curbing and road work, I mean, I must say, like Bradley Beach's curbs aren't that great, but Bradley Boulevard has decent curbs that are
Yeah.
like modern standard.
Mhm.
So we have to rip those out now and then put all new curbs all along that run.
Yes.
I mean, I don't like to spend money twice, but it seems like we already spent money on that. So that was my concern on that. Due to the additional costs of the paving, but again, environmentally, we'll see what's more superior and financially beneficial. And then, Mayor, I just had a question about your comment about fair market value. So as that relates to the sheets there, in the previous step, was the first step less than minimum wage?
It was, well, keep in mind, at the time it was set, it was not less than minimum wage. It was at a point entering these negotiations where pretty much. There were 4 or 5 columns, you may recall. Clerical was the lowest of the steps and that was below minimum wage.
Below, and so they never kept up with it or, adjusted it?
Well-
State did.
Keep in mind, it was scheduled to end 2022, and at that point, it was probably still slightly above minimum wage. But by the time we were setting it with this new contract, it now 2 more years elapsed. Now we're sitting here in 2025 and it was below minimum wage.
Great, okay, well, thanks for doing that, appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, can we call folks, Eric, on the bill?
You have Mia Mullen?
Mia Mullen?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is regarding the tennis court pickleball decision. I don't know if you've talked to any tennis players, but there is an absolute reason why the USTA said they wouldn't give the grant if there's pickleball lines on the court. The tennis people will not use the tennis court, so why would they give you money or us money if the courts are not going to be used. You might see some kids tooling around, but you're not going to see any people that are serious about in the sport of tennis. I am a tennis player, but I've become also a pickleball player now because it's kinder to me in my old age. But it's disappointing that I plan on getting back to tennis. And I don't think for me to say this, but I don't think we should put the tennis lines on the pickleball courts. It's irritating totally to the tennis player, and pickleball people would be thrilled if there were no tennis lines on there. Pickleball people kind of grew up, if you can even say grow up, because it's a fairly new sport, but they grew up playing on tennis courts. That's really where it all started in people's neighborhoods. So they're used to it. But tennis people do not play on pickleball courts. You can ask any tennis player that. So I don't know if you've done any survey. I don't know if there's any tennis players sitting in the room there, but the USTA kind of proved that point, which is my point. And so getting back to the pickleball, Nancy brought up a good point about, resting areas, and I didn't catch all the detail on it, but definitely need benches outside of the courts is a nice thing because pickleball is so popular. People are waiting to play. I'm not sure if there's room for them on the courts. I'm not the best pickleball police person, but they might be intrusive on the game because I know people get a little annoyed when you leave a bag, your personal bag, in between the courts. People are always like, can you please move that? So people feel as if they're crowded to begin with. So as far as the closeness of the court. So I guess I would ask you, are we consulting with anybody who knows how to make a pickleball court and paint those lines? TJ brought up a very good point that there should be a difference in lines. I have played on pickleball only courts, and there is a difference in line color for what's called the kitchen. It's an area on the court that when you're playing, you have to keep your eyes on, and it's always good when it's a different color. And I think even if you watch the professional on TV, it is painted in different color lines. So I end my time here with, I strongly emphasize talking to tennis players before you paint those tennis lines. And I wish there was a place to put a tennis court, because it's very sad for many tennis players that if pickleball is going to take over and has taken over the space for where there were tennis courts. So when I moved to Bradley Beach, we had a tennis court. It's always been decrepit. I couldn't play on it because the ball bounced in all different directions because the pavement was cracked and coming up off the ground. So I've never been able to use them. I always hoped that we would have a tennis court here. It was exciting to me that there was even an attempt to have a tennis court, but then pickleball quickly took over with those lines. There was no pickleball lines when I came here, and that was only in, I think, 2016. I believe there were no lines on that court, or maybe there were, but it was just a mishmash anyway. Anyway, so I don't know. I guess I would ask, has anybody talked to any tennis players before we make what I would think is a bad mistake, a waste of money and irritating to the pickleball players?
I personally have talked to a handful of tennis players, and I've been overwhelmed by many, many pickleball players just finding out where I live and calling me. So, yes. Now, do we have official guidance? Do have tennis players sworn to us that they will never play on our courts? I can't say that. I have had tennis players say, please, keep tennis available to us. And they were saying that knowing that our current courts are shared with pickleball. So, and if we had enough room to have a separate tennis court, we certainly would. I think the path we're on right now is to, preserve both, but we could certainly inquire further. I'm not planning to conduct a formal survey, Ms. Boland, but certainly we can ask if there are tennis players out there, if they're watching the video of the meeting tonight, please let us know if you're willing to play on mixed courts. Because if no one's willing, we can certainly reconsider.
Pickleball people will play on a tennis court because they're used to it, but tennis people don't like to play on pickleball. If there was room, and maybe it's definitely would be more expensive, but between Nancy even made the suggestions, flip-flop, put the basketball courts where the what the tennis court is now, it does become more expensive. But if there was any way to preserve a tennis court or find a place to expand to have a tennis court, it would be the perfect town, Bradley Beach, but no town can be perfect. So,
Thank you. Yep. Okay, Ms. Shishis? Eileen? Eileen Shishis?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I like the idea of the whole, of the recreational, recreation center to rehab. Are there any plans to replace that chain link fence that is falling apart with a nicer looking fence?
The fence around the tennis courts and along the basketball court, yes, there's a fence that runs along the line of the residences between the rec area and the residences. I don't think we are gonna touch that fence because I think that may sort of belong to the private property owners. But also it has vines growing on it, which actually provides a nice visual barrier for the residents to the basketball courts. But the other ones, yes. There's gonna be.
How about along Memorial Drive?
There's the greenhouse and the rec building between the courts and Memorial Drive.
But by the basketball court, by the baseball field, when you're driving down towards the Public Works building, the fence doesn't look very attractive there.
So the fence along the baseball field, that is outside of the limits of this project, but that could be addressed in a future project.
And who is the design expert for all of this? I know, I'm just curious. I mean, do we have design experts for recreational areas like the tennis, like making it a tennis / pickleball center? Or are we just playing, are we just playing checkers with all of this? Thinking we know what we're doing, but we really don't know what we're doing. And I don't mean to be critical, but I have a feeling, and I've been saying this for many years, no Band-Aids on wounds. If you're going to do a job, you do it right. And I agree with Mia as far as a tennis court or a pickleball court, because I don't think the two mix as far as the players. Also, are they going to put shade? Are they going to put any umbrellas or anything like that? Pergolas for shade?
We did talk to Courtney Pappas about potentially putting a shade structure near the tennis pickleball courts, near the parking lot side.
And how aesthetic, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So that if the budget allows, we could do something like that. To answer your question from before, yes, my office, I personally have designed several tennis and pickleball courts, both combined and separate. We have a recreation department, landscape architecture department that designs a lot of recreation centers. We have numerous examples of our projects that the Borough Council has received. So we are qualified to design these improvements.
And the shaded area, I'm hoping it's going to be aesthetically pleasing and not like what we have up on the boardwalk with the railings and that one by, you know which one I'm talking about. But I just would like to see it done correctly and aesthetically pleasing and making it welcoming for everybody wanting to be there. That's all. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And to follow up on that, yes, we will, if we select a shade structure, it will be submitted to the borough for review and comment and to make sure that it's visually what you're looking for. And this is exactly what we're doing here. This is part of the process. coming to this public meeting. This is just a conceptual plan at this point. We're presenting it to the public and to the council for this type of input, so that when we go into our final design and put together final plans and bid documents, they are comprehensive, everybody's had input, and we come to a decision that the council is comfortable with.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? Yes, Mr. Shishis.
The real tennis player, by the way.
There we go. Are you willing to play, Jim, on that?
So, to the point that Mayor was making. I had played tennis since I was a kid, high school, varsity tennis player, played 4 years of varsity tennis at Rutgers, and I'm still playing. I would not play on the court that had to, as a tennis player, I've never played pickleball, but I know what's, I know how they play, and I know the striping. I would not play on a court that has the pickleball striping on it. That's from a long-time tennis player. It's nice to look at what Belmar has because they had the space. And that being able to carve out the pickleball next to the established tennis courts was ideal. So you had both, but you had the space. So I don't know whether we have the space to do anything that would allow for a separate tennis court and still a pickleball, which doesn't take as much space, but still is required. But that was ideal at Belmar, but they didn't try to strike the tennis courts. So I played there, but I would not, as a tennis player, long time and continuing, I would not play on a court that had the pickleball striping on it.
I mean, Ben, we've heard from a limited sample size, but if we can determine that all tennis players universally agree with these sentiments, we probably should reconsider just creating pickleball, I think.
That's easy to do because it's just striking, so it's an easy change to make.
Is that something that you're not Sean, you could take back to the recreation committee to take a look at, maybe they could reach do outreach.
Yeah. I guess another question though is, do we know that the basketball courts are used regularly?
Probably more regularly than the tennis court, which apparently is
Yeah.
never used, but
Okay.
because of, but we don't know if it's because people have less interest in tennis or because it's practically pickleball, so. Chicken and egg conundrum here, but we will do additional research. Thank you all for highlighting that concern. Since I could never hit a tennis ball onto the court, I did not appreciate that, that perspective. Okay, if there are no further comments from the public, we'll move to item 9 on the agenda, ordinances. There are no introductions, but we do have 3 ordinances for adoption, and for each of those, we'll encourage public comment. First is ordinance 2025-11. This is the ordinance amending provisions related to our court fines. Any comment, questions, or any council comments or questions? Okay, make a motion. We open it to the public for any comments or questions.
You have to make a motion. Oh, you need to make a motion? Okay, sorry.
Second.
I'm gonna keep making motions. Sooner or later, I'll get it right.
You're fine, it's me. You're good. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Noble, excuse Ms. Greenblatt? Yes. Mr. Nowicki?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Guptezi?
Yes. Okay, public, any comments or questions regarding the adoption of this ordinance?
All the fees are going up, you.
For the first time in 25 years.
Yeah.
Okay, with seeing no comments or questions, I'll make a motion to close public session and adopt ordinance 2025-11.
Second.
Mr. Noble, excuse Ms. Greenblatt? Yes. Mr. Nowicki?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Guptezi?
Yes. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we open open up the public for questions and comments regarding ordinance 2025-12, which is ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing no hands raised, I'll make a motion to close public comments and adopt ordinance 2025-12.
Second.
Ms. DeNoble excused, Ms. Greenblatt.
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Mayor Gubatosi.
Yes. Okay, ordinance 2025-13, an ordinance establishing certain salaries of certain officers. This is our overall salary ordinance. I will make a motion that we open it to the public for comments or questions.
Second.
Ms. DeNoble excused, Ms. Greenblatt.
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Mayor Gubatosi.
Yes. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, seeing no questions or comments, I'll make a motion to close public session and adopt ordinance 2025-13.
Second.
Ms. DeNoble excused, Ms. Greenblatt.
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Mayor Gubatosi.
Yes. Moving to item number 10 on the agenda, communications. There are two documents for the public's review. A list of new hires really over the past few months of our new administration. And I noticed that Ms. Courtney Pappas has been named, will continue to be our rec director, but has also been named the new rec director for Neptune City. It'll be a shared service with Neptune City, and they will reimburse the borough for 50% of Ms. Pappas's current salary and benefit costs. And that's it for communications. Item number 11 on the agenda, resolutions and the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda the council would like to vote separately or discuss? Okay, I will make a motion that we adopt or that we approve consent agenda resolutions 2025-136 through 2025-137.
Second.
Ms. DeNoble excused, Ms. Greenblatt.
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Mayor Gubatosi.
Yes. Okay, moving to individual resolutions. The first is 2025-127. Appointing Matthew Doherty as the borough administrator. Having a little deja vu here or something. I'd like to make a motion. Wait, is this an April Fool's? I'd like to make a motion that we adopt 2025-127, appointing Matthew Doherty as the borough administrator.
Second.
Ms. DeNoble excused, Ms. Greenblatt.
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Mayor Gubatosi.
I am very excited that Mr. Doherty will remain with us, and I vote a resounding yes. Thank you, Matt. Resolution 2025-138, authorizing a partial refund of land use board escrow funding to Susan Quinlan Ripke in the amount of $1,000. I make a motion that we approve this resolution.
Second.
Ms. DeNoble excused, Ms. Greenblatt.
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yeah.
Mayor Gubatosi.
Yes. Make a motion that we approve 2025-139 Bradley Beach Fallen. Well, before I make that motion, I'm sorry. Let me open 2025-139 Bradley Beach Fallen Hero eligibility criteria. Let me just give the opportunity to the council to question or comment.
I would just say, thank you for hearing us, when this was brought forward, and I felt that the comments were incorporated, so thank you.
Okay, and if no further comments, I'll make a motion that we approve 2025-139, the Bradley Beach Fallen Hero eligibility criteria.
Second.
Ms. DeNoble excused, Ms. Greenblatt.
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Mayor Gubatosi.
Yes. Are there any questions or comments related to 2025-140, the bill list for April 1st?
Mayor, if I may just highlight one issue on the bill list, which may look a little confusing. There is a charge for $1,189.59, and it comes up as K-9 officer blanket. I checked with our chief of police. I can assure you that this is not a blanket for a K-9 officer. This is a blanket purchase order for the Hungry Puppy Corporation, where we purchased, items, food and other supplies for the dog. So even though it says blanket, it's not actually a blanket, it's a blanket purchase order.
Thank you for that clarification.
I did actually have a question. At 25-00441 Lake Terrace for $9,410. Was that a problem? It was page 4 of the PDF.
Which one did you say?
I guess for informational purposes, Lake Terrace, $9,410. And I just wondered if that was a repair, if that was a problem.
I apologize. I'll find it.
Page 4.
Page 4 of the PDF. Lake Terrace,
It's the third page.
engineering.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, it's-
This was engineering, it was done. Says borough engineer.
Yes.
Yeah, this is under,
Avakian.
Avakian.
Was it sewer related? Do we know what this was for?
Do not know.
12/30/24. One principal engineer, I'm just curious. General engineer.
I can find out, I do not know.
Was there work that was done on Lake Terrace in the recent past?
Maybe the park?
The park, yes. But that was,
Last year.
no.
Let's say last year.
No, I mean, a while ago.
Avakian is the.
Because there's an address, I don't wanna call the address out, but there's an address associated, you see where it says principal engineer?
Oh.
Are they the land use board engineer?
Yeah, they're,
Yes, they are.
that's-
I
So
will on
I
Lake
suspect
Terrace.
that's something that see through, the block and lot and then the address,
Yeah.
that's probably a land use charge of some kind.
Hold on a second, let's go to the back page and it tells.
Yeah, they usually put the address when they, like, for what application, because that was an application to
Okay.
the board, they put the
Uh-huh.
address, so.
I think they even have an application number there on the top, you see it?
B7L2,
Yeah, right.
That's the block and lot, but the next line up, there's an application number,
right,
it's 2207.
right, okay,
2207.
okay, I was just curious.
I know there was compliance issues on this application, and it was reviewed again last year, so I was on the email,
That's
so I
an
don't
old-
want to discuss, privilege, I don't want to discuss further than that,
Mhm.
but I know that this was taken a look at because there was compliance issues with it. So
But
that
Greg,
might relate to that.
if this is a land use board professional's charge, then it shouldn't be on our bill list, right?
I don't know if it was related specifically to the application or enforcing the compliance when it was built. Like I said,
Okay, I mean, I'm gonna make a motion that we remove. We remove this item from our vote to approve the bill list, just to temporarily review and better understand what the charge is related to.
Second, Ms. DeNoble excused, Ms. Greenblatt,
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Mayor Gubatose.
Yes. And Matt, let's just make a follow-up to find out what this is.
Double dip.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our resolutions, item 11, and we'll move now to item 12, our announcements. There are none. So we'll move to 13A, our administrators report. Mr. Doherty.
The mayor council, thank you for having me back. I'm glad I didn't say anything negative last time I was here. Quite embarrassing. One of the things that the mayor mentioned before was the finalized agreement with local 152. The retro payments that the mayor referenced will all be paid out at the next pay period, which is April 15th. I can tell you that having those retro payments done, having the contract settled, has been a tremendous boost to the morale of the employees who are part of that bargaining unit. Both the Department of Public Works in this building and other buildings as well. As the mayor mentioned, we do have some new folks that joined us. One of them, Tiffany, is the new person who's gonna be working at the front desk with the front window. So I ask everyone to be gentle with her. This is her first time working here, and I'm sure a lot of you are gonna see her. The next, as the mayor mentioned, we have someone new working in the court. This is Patricia. She's the part-time violations clerk, and I'm sure that no one in this room will ever see her because no one in this room ever gets any violence. But those are two great new additions to the team. I recently toured the Township of Neptune Sewer Authority. That's where the flow from Bradley Beach, along with other towns like Avon, goes. And I can tell you that they were doing a very good job processing our flow, and the flow is down significantly. Just to give you an idea, that the flow in January of 2024 was 29,492,000 gallons of flow out of this tank. That's about 6,700 gallons per resident. This year, that number is down to 11,382,000. The reason why is because there was a repair to a pipe that was leaking, and all that flow was going out to Neptune and being processed and paid for by the residents here in Bradley Beach. So there is a movement afoot, and Councilwoman Greenblatt has really led the charge to continue to improve the rest of the sewer lines throughout town by engaging with Suburban Engineer. And I can tell you, one of the things that Suburban Engineer has brought to the table because of Councilwoman Greenblatt is a program where we will be able to acquire about $6 million in grant money. It's called forgivable principal, but essentially it's grant money from the New Jersey State Infrastructure Bank, which is under the Department of Environmental Protection. It's gonna be a multi-year project, but I can tell you that between the grant money and the money that we'll have to bond for through the sewer authority, the sewer utility, you can see the savings that will occur as we continue to make improvements and put in modern sewer lines as opposed to the old clay pipes held together with oakum that are much older than anyone in this room. So kudos to Councilwoman Greenblatt. I don't think there's any council member who's ever been in a position for 3 months and found $6 million for her town. That's remarkable. And lastly, shared services. As the mayor mentioned, we are now engaged in a shared service with recreation, sharing recreation services with Neptune City, which is gonna be a great benefit to them, great benefit to us, both financially, but also just more children playing together, benefits the community overall. But we also had a great meeting with the Bradley Beach Elementary School about shared services with them as well. Because whether your tax dollars are going to Borough Hall here or going to the elementary school, wherever we can be more efficient and effective and save those tax dollars and stretch them as far as we can, we're gonna look at every opportunity. So we're gonna start engaging more with the Belmar Elementary School at the mayor's directive to work with them on whatever shared service we can come up with. Some of them may be as benign as information technology, or more robust as Department of Public Works. So that's all for me. If anyone does have any questions on flow, I am now an expert on the flow coming out of your town. They said there's only one place that it's up, Mayor, and that's Borough Hall. Since I started working here, this is before. Yes, sir.
Did you just say Belmar or Neptune City? I thought you talked about both towns. For the schools,
Bradley Beach, I'm sorry, Bradley Beach.
but sharing with
Sharing.
what other town?
Neptune City,
Neptune City for recreation
Right.
and Bradley Beach for the school.
our elementary school.
But you had mentioned a
You
shared
said something about
service.
Belmar, so I.
Yeah, you mentioned Belmar and a shared service potentially with another school district.
No, with our school district in Bradley Beach, sorry. I confused Belmar and Bradley Beach. It's happened multiple times this week.
But then who are we, sorry, I'm missing something. Who are
Okay.
we sharing with in Bradley Beach and with the school?
Okay, just to add clarity, we met yesterday with Dr. Heidelberg and BJ Franks. And they laid out a pretty broad agenda of, hey, are there any opportunities for us to mutually benefit through any form of shared services? A couple, our DPW department, represented by Diageo Cafone, said we could very easily help them if they needed it. For example, with lawn maintenance, cutting grass, because our DPW crew has a routine, they go around town. In his words, to stop one more time, it's not a big deal, doesn't require overtime.
I mean, the way it used to be before.
Correct, so,
Stop cutting this
so.
school's lawn. Okay,
but
good.
I-
Right, so right now the school has a private contractor, so they
Right.
can save money, maybe pay us a little bit for it as well.
Yeah.
Information technology, they have someone there full time, we have a contractor, so there's opportunities for us to share services when we can. We're gonna-
May I suggest snow plowing as well?
Well, you may, but that is actually an area where we think the opportunity to share services is fairly unlikely. And the reason being, whereas lawn maintenance is a very routine scheduled event that they can plan for, when snow hits, all hands on deck to clear our streets to do our work, and unlikely that we'd have the capacity to take on their additional snow. So
Okay, I'm just saying, because we used to,
Yeah.
and what happened is, in the middle of January, the borough administrator here called up the school and said, we're not gonna remove your snow anymore. No warning and no, yes, that exactly happened. Since I've been on, I was the liaison to the school board at the time, probably 2018 or something, so that's why I just always said, yeah, it'd be great if we could share services within our own town, and so I'm glad you're looking at the grass cutting, if snow is a possibility, great, if it's not, that's fine, but it used to be that way, so.
Yeah, but back to your point, Matt, wherever we all think in terms of taxpayer dollars, in terms of our real estate taxes, almost half of your tax bill goes to the school, 40% goes to the school, 40% goes to the municipality, 20% goes to the county. That other 40% that goes to school, if we can help them with their spend, we're collectively helping you, our taxpayers, us, our taxpayers. So we're gonna look at all opportunities to reduce resident spend. So that's a good example. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that said, we are through with the administrative report and on to 13B, mayor and council reports. Let me ask Mr. Councilman Nowicki to start.
Thank you. Start with, the police department activities, on March 17th. Individuals arrested in charge of burglary and theft of a motor vehicle. The motor vehicle was taken on November 17th from the 200 block of Newark Avenue. The vehicle was recovered in a short time later by patrol officers in Asbury Park. A thorough investigation by Detective Gregory Pansa led to the identification of the suspect, and as a result, warrant complaints were endorsed, charging him with burglary and theft. He was ultimately arrested under the warrant by the Newark Police Department on March 17th. The police department urges all residents to please remove their key fobs and keys from their vehicle. I know I'm guilty of leaving my fob in my little cup there.
What kind of car do you have, really?
But I leave it there when I'm driving, and I remove it, but it's very important to not leave your fobs in your car. Because this is what happens. Also, the police department also answered several calls for service and investigated 2 motor vehicle accidents between March 10th and March 31st. Moving on to the fire department. For the month ending March 31st, the fire department responded to 6 day calls and 4 night calls for a total of 10 calls. One was a structure fire, 2 were fire alarm activations, 1 was a burning odor, and 1 was a motor vehicle accident. 1 was a carbon monoxide alarm, and 4 were cover assignments for Asbury Park Fire Department. The department conducted 2 trainings, 1 training for vehicle entrapment, extrication, and 1 mutual and training with the Asbury Park Fire Department. There were no requests for mutual aid from other fire departments. The department fulfilled 100% of our assignments for this operational period, and I'm happy to report 2 probationary firefighters are enrolled in the Summer Fire Academy class. We are still looking for volunteers for the fire department and offer training for qualified individuals. Anyone wishing to volunteer for the fire department may inquire through the borough's website. And my first report on the first aid is I took this over appropriately from Councilman Weber. For the operational period ending April 1st, the squad responded to 6 day calls and 5 night calls for a total of 11 calls. 8 were for medical, 3 were fire calls. The squad requested no mutual aid for this operational period. The squad fulfilled 100% of their assignments for this operational period. We are still looking for volunteers for the first aid squad. We offer free training for qualified individuals. Anyone wishing to volunteer for the first aid squad applications can be found on the borough's website. We are now accepting applications also for our cadet program. That's for young people 16 to 18 years of age who are interested in serving the community. And the last one would be the Sylvan Lake. We spoke a lot about that, but again, just to remind everybody, as I said earlier, 2 weeks from Wednesday on I believe that's the 19th, there will be a Sylvan Lake meeting. So that would be the 16th. And that's my report.
Very good, thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Greenblatt.
Great, thank you. I'll start with the Fletcher Lake Commission, which has not met since our last council meeting. They only meet once monthly. As spring blooms around Fletcher Lake, the commission is pulling out its gardening tools for planting, new garbage cans, and enhancement to the lake for recreation. The commission is considering installing lights in the lake fountains. On the near horizon will be a lake cleanup, an afternoon community event that will bring together both of Ocean Grove and Bradley Beach residents in a common endeavor. The Fletcher Lake Commission will be looking ahead to partner with other communities that have seashore lakes in Monmouth County to promote recreational activities and appreciation of its natural amenities. With lakes straddling both ends of our borough, the two commissions hope to get together to organize shared interests. The next commission meeting is scheduled for Thursday, April 10th at 6 p.m. in this chamber. The rec committee also has not met since our last council meeting, but I will share a bunch of the activities that are going on. Recurring events. Mahjong meets every Friday at the Biazzi Center from 1 to 3 p.m. Open Rec runs Thursdays until 6 p.m. and Fridays until 7 p.m. And this is for school-age children. The Senior Club meets Wednesday, April 23rd at noon at the Biazzi Center. And some activities for the spring. Morning pickleball runs from April 15th to May 6th. The April sessions are full. Afternoon pickleball runs from May 13th to June 3rd with 2 time slots, 4:30 and 5:30 p.m. The fee is $20 for the 4-week session. Registration for May opens on April 21st. Bocce spring season is almost here. It will run from May 6th to June 24th. Registration opens on April 14th for the spring league. Student baseball softball clinic runs from April 14th to April 18th, 9 a.m. to noon. And I think that's during the school break. A glow-in-the-dark Easter egg hunt runs on April 12th at 7:30 p.m. for students in grades 5 and up at the Rec Center baseball field, 49 Main Street. Salted Soul Yoga will run on April 26th at 9:30 a.m. at the Lorraine Beach. There's no charge for admission. Bowling night will take place on Wednesday, April 30th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Bradley Bowl, 1217 Main Street. $12 per person and includes shoes and a 2-hour bowl. Rec is offering a student drop-off associated with this event if there's sufficient interest. Registration is open now. And finally, Summer Camp 2025 registration is open. The program runs for 7 weeks, June 30th to August 15th, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Please go to the Recreation homepage for details and Community Pass for registration for recreation events. The Recreation Board's next meeting is Monday, April 7th at 6:30 p.m. at the Rec Center. And finally, the Arts Council. The Arts Council met Friday, March 21st and voted on its membership for appointment. The candidates will be forwarded to the mayor for appointment at our next council meeting on April 15th. Fingers crossed. At that time, the council hopes to have ordinance amendments introduced to reflect the council makeup. Once the council is filled, they will reach out to volunteers for program support. More to come on a newly invigorated Arts Council and collaboration with the BBBCA's Visual Arts Community, a program with recreation and performing arts events. The next Arts Council meeting is Friday, April 11th at 2 p.m. And I believe that the nominees will be invited to that meeting. And I had also sent you the Arts Council picks, I think yesterday for your.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. Councilman Weber.
All right, so we're gonna talk about bulk trash, and the reason for that is, we've been informed that the borough spent $20,000 last year getting rid of bulk trash. That's just the tipping fees to dump it, just so everybody knows it's more expensive to get rid of a ton of bulk trash than regular household trash. That doesn't include staff time, wages, anything like that, doesn't even include the dumpster, because we own the dumpster. So we took in only a fraction of that $20,000 in bulk sticker fees. So we are looking to do some changes. We will probably be discussing in a future time. Could be raising the bulk sticker fees. It could be changing the amount of bulk that people are allowed to bring down to the DPW yard. Could be both of those things, but we will be talking about that and bringing that in the future. Some other stuff that DPW has been busy with, you're probably seeing there's new concrete pads at Evergreen and Cliff. These are to accommodate new handicapped showers, which will be there. They're actually already underway at Evergreen, building a new handicapped shower. DPW built a second storage container for the lifeguard equipment. They have to figure out where to put that, but we're busy with that. And we're gonna get a new gas and diesel tanks at the DPW yard. The old ones are old, they're in bad shape, so good to replace them. They're gonna be on skids, which makes it so they can be moved if the whole operation from DPW moves to the north yard one day. We won't have to rebuild gas and diesel tanks. We're just gonna move the ones that we will have. DPW built 2 new storage areas on the beach, or I don't know if they built or they're going to build, but new storage places for the police and for first aid. My understanding, this is gonna be on the Evergreen Beach, where that part was surrounded by like 3 dunes on 3 sides. So there's gonna be some new places for police and first aid storage there. And in the summer, there's gonna be some changes on the crosswalks. We're gonna have, I love this because I want this. It's gonna be like a crosswalk going across Ocean Ave. There's gonna be traffic cones in the beginning of the crosswalk when you first step off the sidewalk. And these very visually stimulating black and orange, like horizontal bars that go in between, that hang in between the traffic cones, just really eye-catching, so you really know that, oh, there's this pedestrians here. Anybody drive through Avon in the summer, you see this, you know what I'm talking about? Okay. I think it's gonna be a lot better, a lot safer, so looking forward to that change on the beachfront in the summer. And then one thing about the Environmental Commission, they meet next week. I think this is the first time that first Tuesday is before the first Monday, so they haven't met yet. But they had an idea from a couple of months ago that came to fruition in March. They had students in the environmental club in town go and help plant dune grass to fill in gaps. There's some bare spots in our dunes, and we had worked with the American Littoral Society to come in and donate the grass, and then we got the kids in the environmental club to go and plant it. So that happened just a couple weeks ago. So teaching kids and improving the resilience of our dunes, and that is it for my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Weber. Before I begin my report, I wanted to note that Council President DeNoble is not with us tonight. Her mother passed away overnight yesterday. TJ, thank you for being with us, but understandably, Council President could not join us tonight, but her family and you know, the challenges that they face are in our prayers. For my report, I have a wonderful announcement to make. We received yesterday our 2023 audit. So we are the audit report. So we are in, you know, early stages of 2025. It truly came down to the wire. I think the 31st was our deadline to get this. I believe it's been disseminated to our council via email.
at our next meeting in 2 weeks, we will all, there will be a resolution where we will all attest to having reviewed the comments in that report. In a very small nutshell, it wasn't great. It was, given how bad the 2022 audit report was, it was an improvement. So we did have a slightly better report. But in 23, for example, we did draw down surplus across the two utilities in the current fund, a little over $800,000, 600,000, which we more or less knew about from the current fund, and 57,000, I believe, from the sewer, and maybe a little over 100,000 from the beach. In and of itself, that's not a bad thing. Drawing down surplus in and of itself is not a bad thing. What it really comes down to is, you know, was it for specific uses, and was it planned versus unplanned? We'll get into more of that as we all review the report. But it was a long time in coming. The auditor shared with us that the 24 data again, this was a 23 report, but a lot of it with the 23 data was cleaned up during 24 by our interim CFO last year, Ricky Gartz. So he said the 23 data that he got was much cleaner than the 22 data he received, which was apparently atrocious. So I feel like we're building some positive momentum in our world of finance. You all met our CFO, our interim CFO, John Barrett, at our last meeting. He's been great to work with. He's identifying all kinds of opportunities for us to continue to improve and enhance our finances. He just identified a couple of days ago a $450,000 receivable that we were not aware of. It means monies that are owed to the borough that we were not aware of. So we keep finding little, you know, treasure eggs, and again, a lot of credit goes to our new CFO. And speaking of our new CFO, our plan, in case anyone is wondering, I feel we're a good solid month late in getting a workshop together for our 2025 budget. I've got a million reasons for that. However, the good news is our plan is to workshop our 2025 budget at our next meeting on April 15th. April 15th will probably be a long meeting. That alone is a fairly extensive process to make sure that information is shared with the public has a chance to ask questions. Depending what kind of questions we have from our own council, there may be an opportunity to consider presenting that budget for introduction at the same meeting. And we may or may not do that, but I just want everyone to know that that is on the immediate horizon. Mentioned earlier about the local 152 contract, provided that little PowerPoint overview. As I also mentioned, we should have the actual contract signed any day, and we will continue. People periodically have inquired of updates on the reporting out of that contract. We don't quite have that ready yet, but it's paperwork that needs to be filed. As soon as that's available, we will let the public know. I'm a member of the library board, and the library board just last week in their meeting, or beginning of end of last week, I'm sorry, hired a restoration consultant to help the library board identify opportunities to conduct repairs on the building. Probably most noteworthy would be, once again, taking a really good look at the big bronze doors and see what can be done with the doors on the library. They had 3 bids, and it was a unanimous vote that all the board members, including myself, felt one particular bidder was head and shoulders above the others in terms of not only their credentials and their focus on restoration, also, and their fees were very competitive. But I thought most importantly, they really narrowly focused their scope. They customized the scope to the needs of the library. There was another firm, for example, that was really powerful credentials, but their scope was not anywhere nearly as well defined to meet the library's needs. We also have much work ahead for the upcoming Memorial Day, and it's still almost 3 months away, May 26th, I believe, our Memorial Day celebration. We obviously have the parade, We have a committee working on that and they're making great strides. Um, uh, Identifying a lot of the vendors that would be on the beach, setting up the parade and participants in the parade itself. That's the Saturday before Memorial Day. We also have, we've talked about this before, Host Compliance is the entity that will monitor our short-term rentals. We'd like that in place by Memorial Day. We're having weekly meetings with myself, Mr. Doherty, and our other members of the administration to make sure we have that up and running, have taxes collected for the 3% of those fees as well. Which, as we've mentioned before, I'm gonna keep saying this broken record, but I wanna make sure people are ready for this. We are introducing Park Mobile for our parking service. Work to be done there, but it's moving very smoothly. If you haven't downloaded the app already, please do so, to the extent you need to park on our beachfront. We'll do a lot of communicating to make sure our visitors are aware of that as well. I think the good news regarding Park Mobile, one, they're a very efficient, well-oiled machine when it comes to servicing municipalities along the shore. And two, they're pretty well established already in most other municipalities, so most people have downloaded that app, but to the extent our visitors still have not yet done that, we want to make sure we communicate that clearly. Folks, Mr. Weber most recently, but folks have referenced DPW. They are helping us prepare for Memorial Day with a lot of concrete work they're doing to help us create wheelchair access at 2 of our beaches. Mr. Matlack mentioned earlier that they're doing the pavers. I guess what I want to highlight about our DPW folks is everyone loves, I think, all of our employees, but especially DPW is very resident facing. We see them every day picking up garbage and so forth. But that said, I still don't know that we all appreciate enough of what they do for this borough. Not only are they gonna save us $40,000 or $50,000 on those pavers, Biagio sat here and the other day said, sure, superintendent, we can pick up your garbage, we can cut your grass, we can save some money. The school will transfer some funds to us. We'll be able to use that to reduce taxes directly. So they've just been building storage units, Mr. Weber, you mentioned. These are things that we would be paying people a good amount of money to do for us. And they're doing it and with very clear instructions to do it not using overtime. They're weaving it into their schedules during the day. So it's just phenomenal value that they continue to deliver to the borough. And back to Memorial Day, not only do we have the wheelchair access coming with pickup and drop offs, but I think I mentioned it last time, we have at these 2 beaches that'll be wheelchair accessible. We will have 10-foot wide Moby mats, which are really cool. I've seen pictures of them. I hear great things about them. It effectively allows 2-way traffic. There's a line drawn down the middle of it, 5 foot wide on each side, but it's gonna be great for wheelchairs and people on mechanical scooters and so forth. And finally, regarding Memorial Day, I've been pretty clear. You heard it tonight. We passed a resolution establishing criteria for our fallen heroes, people who have died in service that in some manner, shape, or form represent Bradley Beach. We are moving forward with creating a monument that will capture a lot of the fallen heroes that are not currently recognized at Riley Park. We're gonna build a separate bronze plaque with their names, put that at Riley Park so we can recognize all of our fallen heroes in one place on Memorial Day at Riley Park. And on that note, if you haven't received it yet, it's probably hasn't gone out, but it's going out, if not today, tomorrow. A fundraising request from your mayor, me, in case there was any reminding needed. Asking folks to consider making donations to that fund, the Fallen Hero Trust Fund. The way that will be set up, whatever monies that come in, we're gonna use that so we're not using taxpayer dollars to fund the actual memorial that we're putting together, fund other related activities such as a brochure recognizing our 19 fallen heroes. And we will keep that in trust to make sure that those funds are used only for that purpose. So also, if anyone who's making a donation can have a loved one or two, there's no real limit on this, of either relatives or friends or family that actually have died in the war. It would not be a Bradley Beach specific fallen hero, but I, for example, have two uncles who died in foreign wars. I am going to make sure I put their names in the back of this appendix. They had no correlation to Bradley Beach whatsoever. But also you can name just veterans. Veterans, you know, could be your family, your father, your cousins, your aunts, your children, any veterans you want to name. We will put those in it with any donation, just to make sure we all as a community get a chance to pay respects to people that we know and love as well. So with that said, that concludes my comments, and I'd like to open it up now to the public. Yes, sir. Anthony.
Andrew Scanlon, 800 Main Street. How you guys doing? Nice to see you. As you know, I'm gonna be going for approvals for use of the tea garden tent and dairy restaurant. I don't know if there's a place to bring it up or to ask the question, and I figure since you're all here, I understand there's a way that you can get a special permit to run the tent for a certain amount of time. And I was wondering if there was any kind of limit on that time, if I could ask for it to be a month or two or summer, while I go for the approvals. I did hire an engineering company, I hired a lawyer, and I've hired everyone that I necessary, but I'm afraid that it might take a little longer than we would like. I don't know exactly how long it's gonna take. I just, like I said, we just got started with the, we just get started, but the process is a little bit cumbersome, if you will, for especially for me. I don't know much about this kind of stuff. So again, the question is, if it can be answered here, or if it can be answered another time. The special permit, is it only a day or two? Is it a week? Is it a month? Is it 3 months? And that's it. Appreciate the time. Thank you all so much.
I think the attorney's looking at that.
Yeah. So, Mr. Cannon, I know you and I briefly spoke about this earlier today. Do you have any thoughts, or do we need to come back to that?
There's no specific time in chapter 393. But obviously it's understood to be a temporary situation, because if it's not a temporary situation, it's generally pointed out, you have to go to the zoning board to do something permanent. So I think we'd have to further just discuss what time frame as a policy you want to set. But in general, the language of the ordinance doesn't prohibit you from doing perhaps a month-long special event.
So Anthony, we don't have a specific answer for you right now. I think what we'll need to do is talk to you about what time frame you're looking for, how it would work, what the parameters are for this. We do have an ordinance that allows for special events that the council can approve. So if you'll talk with me and Mr. Doherty, just to give us a time frame, we can share that with the council and discuss whether or not we can put it into a council resolution.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Yes, Ms. Kepler.
Beth Kepler, 504 Central Avenue. I wish I could say April Fools at the end of this statement, but unfortunately it's not a joke. I'm here to share a troubling story about transparency, where the lack of it revealed through a dispute over requests. This isn't just about records, it's about what those in power don't want us to see and why. I submitted an over request for communications between former and current borough officials, including email logs, simple metadata like sender, receiver, date, and subject. These logs were official, critically to the investigation of criminality within the Fox administration, where Cannon and Costas both served. I received a denial from Cannon through Costas, claiming recent Oprah amendments barred my access to email server logs. The reasoning was vague, the citation shaky, it didn't hold up. I appealed, citing clear precedent of New Jersey's Supreme Court ruling. I reviewed the 2024 amendments myself. There is no exemption for email logs. Cannon's denial was baseless. Then I got an email from Costas, CC to Cannon, conceding my request. She claimed it was solely her decision alone, with no instruction from any professionals or colleagues, and promised to provide me the requested email logs this week. That's where this gets interesting and suspect. Cannon, our borough attorney and supposed Oprah expert, denied my request, implying I wasn't entitled to the logs. Yet, after my appeal exposed his error in legal judgment, or worse, his intent, he stayed silent and hid behind Costas. She unilaterally reversed course implausibly without his approval. She
Sure.
wanted me to believe
Sure.
she, the clerk, went rogue, overriding Cannon's legal stance without consulting anyone. That's strange credulity. It's far more logical Cannon, realizing his denial wouldn't hold up a legal challenge, orchestrated this concession to avoid putting his name on it. Why? Either he grossly misjudged the law, unlikely for an attorney, or he knew that the logs would reveal something he'd rather keep buried. Something tied to my investigation that he was hoping I would accept his denial and not have the skill set to challenge him. This brings me to a letter sent demanding that they recuse themselves from handling my request, citing rule of professional conduct, their roles in the Fox administration create a conflict of interest. They're not neutral custodians, they're lead players. First denying my request and then capitulating when challenged smacks of abusing their authority to shield themselves personally. If I didn't know how to write a legal appeal, they would have succeeded in withholding records illegally and without cause, denying my right to access. This isn't just my fight, it's about every resident's right to know what's happened. As an attorney, Cannon knew from the start I was legally entitled to those logs. He didn't want them released because of what they would prove. Misconduct, Cannon and Costas are desperate to conceal. That's not incompetence, that's premeditated calculation, and it's precisely why Cannon and Costas can't be trusted to handle my requests when it's not their own actions, when it's their own actions under scrutiny. I offered the construction permits and was denied, saying they must be requested by specific addresses, not by year. However, Jen Bean revealed that it was not her experience. She received the last 5 years of permits by year. Another lie to deny my obtaining information Cannon and Costas don't want me to have. Transparency isn't optional, it's the law. When those entrusted with it twist it to protect themselves, they betray us all. And I urge this council to investigate this behavior, to hold accountable those who would rather hide than serve. Fox stated publicly last week it was TNM who wrote the RFP for the church. He said it was DeMarco, Fehrenbach, and Humphrey. He admitted he's not qualified and doesn't have the skills to draft an RFP, but apparently they do. He claimed that they ran it past TNM. He and TNM got paid he said TNM got paid approximately $4,000 only to have the RFP DeMarco, Fehrenbach, and Humphrey wrote run past them. Yet Cannon and Costas explained in great detail on January 21st, 2025 in their infamous video that TNM knew nothing about the RFP and Fox and Fehrenbach and DeMarco wrote it. Someone is lying. I offered the financial records. TNM was paid $27,000 for an RFP they never drafted, and we're paying CME $20,000 to write a second one. That's $47,000 of your tax dollars, not $4,000 that Fox claimed. Was TNM paid $27,000 or was that money embezzled too? So many questions with so few answers. Who really are the fools here? That concludes my statement.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? I see Ms. Mullen online. Mia?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, I'm Mia Mullen, 302 4th Avenue. Forgot to do that last time. I just wanted to continue from before because Councilwoman Greenblatt brought up a good point as far as what is used more, the tennis court or the basketball court. You cannot judge it based on today's times because anybody who plays tennis is not going to use the courts. Anybody who's serious or knows the sport of tennis would not be using the courts that are there because of not only the lines, but there's cracks and bumps. That one court is decrepit. So it's useless. Avon has 2 courts that are just tennis courts, and there's always a wait there. Nobody comes over to Bradley Beach. I actually ride my bike to the Avon court, so it's super, super close. And nobody comes over to use the courts at Bradley Beach because they don't work. So you're not going to use tennis courts that are unusable. You might see some school kids tooling around on those courts, batting a racket around, but you're not going to see people that are really into the sport, have grown up with the sport like me and Jim. We know exactly, what we would want to play on, but it's not here in Bradley Beach. So I go back to Councilman Greenblatt's question, which I thought was very fair. What is used more, the tennis court or the basketball court? I wouldn't want to take anything away from kids that are using a basketball court, or even if they just go on occasionally. But I just wish there was a way to find room for a tennis court on its own. And if not, then just don't have one, because I will enjoy playing pickleball that much more if there's no tennis court underneath with, or not underneath, conflicting with the lines of the pickleball court. I think it's in a decision that has to be made. You really should not have both, because you're totally irritating tennis players, but pickleball players will be thrilled to not have to have the tennis lines on the court. So you can't judge it based on the condition of that court today. And my memory failed me when I last spoke earlier this evening. I did go on that tennis court when I first moved here in 2016, and there were pickleball lines on it. And of course, with all of the cracks, I realized this is not usable. And it's been in that condition, if not getting worse, in all the years that I've been here. So I play in Avon. They keep them maintained, and it's 2 separate courts, but there's always a line. If you don't go at 7 a.m. in the morning, you're not going to be able to play before noon. So it'd be nice if I could play in my own town. So, and other tennis players too. It's not just about me.
Thank you, Ms. Smolin.
All right.
Are there
Thank you, Shauna, Councilwoman Greenblatt, for bringing up that point.
Are there any other questions or comments? In that case, I will make a motion to close the meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.